Greetings, everyone. Wet Hamster here.
Other person?
Yep, Kaboom Dagoon, and I'm wearing baby armor. Literally, I tore it off of the babies that the Bassaros that we killed.
You're a monster.
Yeah, I'm wearing baby skin.
The cats are happy.
Got some lovely friendship points, and got a nice gold card and everything. So you know, like I got Box's got some bling.
Also, it seems like you've got a giant dust bunny walking around there.
It's
Probably a sign you should tidy more often.
Oh, it's a sheep, a pig sheep. But with Bassaros armor, I can get terrain damage negate, meaning I will not take damage from stupid auras. And since it's high rank armor, well, you know, all the better. More defense, more power to me.
Still gonna screw up, right?
That's kind of a given.
Yeah. Although those shoulder pieces are incredibly unwieldy.
Yeah.
Those are like the dumbest pauldrons I've seen in a long time.
Oh, you should really take a look at the shoulder pauldrons that are in this game. Like, some of them get really ridiculous in high rank and G rank of different armors. Like, if you look at, just off the top of my head, what's the adult version of a Bassaros? I should know this. My mind is drawing a blank. Excellent. Gravios, that's the type of monster. Yes, if you look at the shoulder pauldrons there, they can get pretty ridiculous. And the shoulder...
It looks interesting, but you actually think about how it would work, and it's like...
No.
you...
But it is silly anime design. And
yeah.
Speaking of...
Because everyone knows that, you know, cool guys don't have peripheral vision whatsoever.
That is...
That's for pussies.
Yeah. Either they wear no armor, or they wear way too much armor.
Too much armor.
Like a
oh god, this
tank.
is too many armors.
Yeah. And we have Lunastra in the desert. Oh, I hate this place. The problem with this place is that Lunastra has too much room to move around in, which is a problem. The bigger the area is, the farther they go in one jump. If the area is really tiny, they can't go very far because their movement is sort of scaled down, which also makes them a little slow.
Dragon.
Well, I don't enjoy Kitty Dragon. Actually, this is, when you get down to it, it is a fairly obnoxious fight.
Kind of like a Chimera, except with wings wrapped 2 extra heads.
Well, it's actually not really more of a Chimera. I would say more of a Manticore without the scorpion bits. Like, without the scorpion tail. And just fire instead.
Yeah, Manticores and Chimeras are kind of interchangeable when you get down to it.
Well, not really, because here's the thing. Manticores have, like... They are a lion with bat's wings and a scorpion tail. But they have the face of a man, and here's the thing. They love eating the flesh of humans, which is what makes them such a big menace. And they're intelligent and can talk. Whereas the Chimera is more of a 3-headed beast, which is just a big dumb animal.
Yeah. Well, it depends, because some Manticores do have the lion face. You know, depending on what it is you're going for. And the Chimera does have a lion face as well. It's just different tail, and it's rather than wings, it's got a big goat sticking out its back.
Well, that's more design, but as far as I understand, now I'm probably getting this wrong, but back down to myth and lore, like the Chimera is actually just a 3-headed beast, and it has nothing to do with like a snake's tail. It is a lion's head, goat's head, and a dragon's head.
Again, with all these things, it depends on what sources you're looking at.
Yeah, but most video games like to have them sort of like I know with Final Fantasy games they like to have the tail being a snake head or something like that.
Yeah. Same with I was fighting a couple in Dragon's Dogma earlier.
What was it with that Dragon's Dogma? Admittedly, I will play Dragon's Dogma once I'm done with Monster Hunter Let's Plays, because
it's a fun game, and
I probably should have something to put by waiting, but I really want to get Freedom and Freedom Unite over with. I'm getting to that point. It's just I had already ordered Xenoblade before it got to that point where I was like, you know what? I just want to finish this. But then I was like, well, Xenoblade's right in front of me, and Mass Effect 3 has just been lying here on the table waiting for me to play it, and I've been like, no, I'll get to it another day. It's not that good of a game anyways.
You should see my Steam library. I think about a good half to 3/5 of the games that I have bought over the years, I have just never gotten around to playing.
Wow, you're sounding more and more like my friend Juani.
It's like I just buy them on sale because, you know, it's pennies for this game. I might be in the mood to play it at some point. Who knows?
I only buy games I plan on playing, and once I play them to the end, no matter how bad it is. So I have a high tolerance for shit, but like once it's done and over with, I'm like, I'm never playing this again.
I do that more with my 360 games. I've got a higher rate of completion with the 360 than I do with any other console.
And the reason for me fuming there is just because Lunastra's ignoring me and fighting the cat, and I know if I go over there to fight Lunastra, Lunastra will end up being in the zone line and either sniping me or just dashing between me and the zone line over and over and over again, and I just won't be able to do anything. From experience, I know that. So I thought, you know what, I'll just choose an emote there.
See, I thought he was less stomping his foot, more rocking out.
No, it's not really more of a stomp foot rock now. It's more like, I am angry, rawr, I am stomping my feet. Longsword isn't a bad thing to break the wings with either, as a side note, just because it has that reach. And, you know, the overhead swing will always start by hitting the wing, and I like to get those wing breaks, even if I do start by bouncing a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just glad you're using something that isn't gun lance.
Well, for the Elder Dragon fights, I will be using long swords, just because. Well, you have this. There are really no good dragon element not long swords, but you know, like dragon gun lances. Not unless you do multiplayer. Like at the very end of high rank, and I literally mean the very end of high rank, there is one dragon element gun lance that is competent.
I noticed that you didn't say good, just competent.
Yeah. It is just barely competent, and I do end up using it. Spoilers, I use some gear.
God!
Oh.
I just completely killed things there, didn't I?
Yeah, no, what was I gonna say? I thought I broke the wings there a second, I was gonna comment on it, but I was like, oh wait, no I didn't.
I thought you broke his head crest earlier.
No, I haven't yet. I don't think so, at least. I haven't paying attention to the head, I guess.
I saw something fly off, but it must have just been the cat.
Might have been the cat. Cat tends to do that. And then the other thing that makes the desert really obnoxious is running between areas in the desert. Granted, though, when he runs back to the other area where he was, or well, flies, it's easier to catch up because you can take the secret shortcut in the well and cut down your travel time. But I just don't like running through the big areas of the desert, just in general. I hate those areas. They bring back terrible memories of Monoblos and Diablos, where this is the area they only fight in. Also, that goes into the list because I like to be out here.
See, I think giant desert areas, which are annoying, I think Breath of Fire 3. Because that had this really annoying sort of third-person, behind perspective desert area where you could wander for hours and not see anything. And there was a very specific way of doing things to get all the items in there.
That's starting to sound like the whatchamacallit. Not quite, but Remember the first Secret of Mana game that we got?
Oh yeah,
You
no,
have the
that
desert
was much
maze
worse than
thing
that.
where you just get teleported back to the start if you choose a wrong path, and as a kid you don't know what you're doing, so you spend literally days in this stupid desert area.
Oh no, much worse than that.
Uh.
The desert areas you could kind of, but the desert area in
Is it
Secret of Mana you could kind of brute force after a while.
well? What about what's that? Under the one that the American developers did for Square Enix using the game engine for Secret of Mana.
Secret of Evermore.
Yeah, that was like a desert area there that looked fairly obnoxious.
Never really got into that.
Like, basically, it was one of these things, but instead of those a bunch of small zones that you zone in between, it is just one huge area that keeps scrolling and scrolling and scrolling forever unless you go the right way, and there's no real way of knowing the right way, if I recall. So it's like occasionally, like, if you're lucky, you'll find a few, like, landmarks, which means go this way, then you find another landmark, go that way. But until then, it's just this empty desert void that just scrolls on forever. With lots of monsters to annoy you.
Yeah. Never really played Secret of Evermore when it was out, despite I was a huge fan. I mean, Secret of Mana is one of my favorite games of all time.
See, I didn't play it either, but that's just more because, they didn't really sell console games here in the West until, like, the PS1. But I watched
it did get a European release, surprisingly. Because back then, RPGs just, there was no market. People just didn't play them. Well, except for me, because I'm sad like that. But the market as a whole,
Baldur's Gate half to death.
console RPGs didn't happen, and
That's true.
really most of the computer RPGs were really obtuse stuff like the Wizardry series.
Yeah, dungeon crawlers.
Yeah, it was stuff that playing them was more of an exercise in masochism than fun.
I don't know, I played the Eye of the Beholder games and a lot of those dungeon crawler games, and they weren't that bad.
There were a lot of really difficult and unfair parts in them, though, you have to admit.
No. I never really saw it that way. I steamrolled those games from day one.
I just remember playing the stuff like the Wizardry games. And
I never played the Wizardry games, granted, though.
Those were... Ugh. Like I said, after a while it just felt more like an exercise in masochism. They were painful to play.
Speaking of old school dungeon crawlers like Eye of the Beholder and such, like, I had an idea. I've had some ideas of inklings. I may have mentioned in commentary before. I don't recall. But here's basically like my ideas. Like, I mentioned to you once, I'm considering doing for my next Let's Play after the Monster Hunter games, doing a quick run of that Final Fantasy VII game that nobody asked for. Crisis Core, yeah, that one. Like, just doing a quick run of that. And I've also been considering The Last Remnant, because I actually really do like The Last Remnant, and I feel that it's pretty much an underrated game.
Yeah, one of the three people who actually likes it.
Yeah. No, I think the problem was that it was just overlooked by everyone. Like, even I didn't know it existed until, like, I saw it on Steam, and I was like, what's The Last Remnant? And then I checked it out and was like, oh, actually, this looks pretty decent.
Up until Final Fantasy 13 came out, the RPG scene on modern consoles was pretty bare.
Yeah, and the ones that did come out, they were never really commercialized properly or anything, so, like, they went under the radar.
Yeah, it's a great shame because Lost Odyssey came out during that period, and it is an absolutely fantastic game.
I played Lost Odyssey when it came out. I'm considering actually still buying Lost Odyssey.
Oh, absolutely do so. You can get it for pennies off eBay. So not eBay, Amazon.
But yeah, I'm actually considering getting Lost Odyssey or something like that, or the first Lost Planet game. I heard that one's pretty good too.
Yeah, Lost Planet has a lot of flaws, but it's a fun kind of action shooter.
My other latest idea that I've been thinking of is doing some research and going and finding out where and how I can get a hold of all the old school dungeon crawlers that I don't actually own, and then doing a sort of like mega thread on them, because you can go through these old school dungeon crawlers pretty quickly, and then I'll work from the bottom and then my way up. Like, this is the first one that was really, like, let's just say Dungeon Master, like the first one.
Yeah.
Then I work my way up to something like Eye of the Beholder and like chronological order of when these games were released.
Yeah. Now most of them by this point would probably be abandonware.
Or Good Old Gamer.
Or worst comes to worst, Good Old Games.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Good Old Games. Sorry, not Good Old Gamer. But yeah, Good Old Games. And I actually own like the first Eye of the Beholder game, Dungeon Hack, Dungeon Master 1 and 2.
Hero Quest?
That doesn't really count because it was based off of a board game.
Yeah.
And it's more like you roll your dice and you move your characters and stuff like that. I'm thinking more like the first person view dungeon crawlers, where it's like on a grid, and then working my way up through like chronologically through it. I might not touch. I have never heard I've heard of it, but I've like you mentioned before, like the what was that series? The one that's
Wizardry.
Wizardry, yeah. Like, I keep forgetting the name of it, but yeah, I probably won't touch that just because I have no knowledge of it or something like that. And I kind of wanted to be like with the game series I grew up with. A lot of them I don't own anymore just because I lost them or they got destroyed with age.
Yeah. Well, there's been a couple of LPs of the Wizardry series as a whole.
Yeah,
Someone's doing the fourth one.
I remember like I saw like there was actually Let's Plays of the Wizardry series, but this is just some thoughts because I remember there was also a Ravenloft one as well, and like I only had like the shareware demo of it, so.
Yeah, Ravenloft is that the sort of steampunky one?
No, Ravenloft.
No, that's Eberron I'm thinking of. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Ravenloft is Yeah, on the outside, the world is just, normal.
It's a kind of
normal
horror-based one, more.
Yeah, basically horror-based D&D in a sense, but
yeah.
When you
always get the sort of basically everything that isn't Forbidden Realms or Planescape, I always get confused.
But basically, yeah, on the outside, it's just regular medieval stuff, barely any magic as it is, and no real clerical powers. Like, it is basically a realm where a horror realm, like basically that's part of the negative plane where people can actually live on. Where the gods were like, where the hell do we put this super vampire? The basic first vampire and all this. We know, we'll trap him in a plane where nothing can come out of, but you can come into it. So they
the plane of negative hope.
Yeah, more or less like that. And so they dumped him there, and the first vampire is just really pissy. He's really powerful and shit. So the gods dumped him there, and then basically people, creatures and monsters and whatnot, just slowly sort of found their, like, through Planescape, where you can go through a door one day and you're carrying the right item and thinking the right mantra in the head, and suddenly, because there was like a sort of portal there, and you get sent.
It crops up once every 23.5 months.
Yeah, exactly, and like that 1.0000 point something chance that this would actually happen. Like, a person would go missing and would never come back, and then they'd be in a different place, another world, another universe, another dimension. Like, that is how people started getting to Ravenloft, and then slowly but surely, Ravenloft started getting populated by people. But it is in the sense like the way it's all run. It is like Gothic Dark Ages, as in like it's really grim and it's very brutal. It's not the nice kind of, it's it's the Dark Ages. It's nice, and there's adventures, and there's dragon slaying. No. This is like basically just humans finding ways to dick each other over, and through politics and schemes and horrible torture and so forth. And then down underneath this layer of normalcy, there's the horror element, and probably again more like every time you see anything supernatural or undead or monsters, so forth. Basically, they do the Call of Cthulhu thing, of course, where your character goes more insane and so forth. But that's just because, and the explanation like why normal people can't stand seeing this is because like they normally don't experience these things. Like the creatures aren't out in open plain view, and because it is like this plane of existence is like right up against the negative plane where nothing living can exist. Like it is the plane of pure evil, if you will, in a sense.
Plane of nihilism.
Exactly. And just because you're so close to this, it warps people. It warps their minds, and that's also why the setting is so grim and dark, because everybody is they're affected passively by this. So, like, they actually did a dungeon crawler in Ravenloft. I played it. I didn't really understand much of what was going on, just based off of the
the setting.
No, not the setting. I was thinking about the game thing. But the shareware demo, yeah, I didn't really get much off of it. But I kind of wanted to play it, but I never really got a chance to get it or anything, unfortunately. So I plan on looking up and getting as many games as I can, and dungeon crawler games, you can win them pretty quickly. And then I slowly work myself up to The Legend of Grimoire, which is like the first release in God knows how many years since they did a proper dungeon crawler in that isometric grid. Not isometric grid, but just a grid.
Yeah. I think it's because when people say dungeon crawler these days, they think something like Diablo.
Yeah. Which is a dungeon crawler, but it is not the classic dungeon crawlers.
Yeah. No, the thing is, all the classic dungeon crawlers were turn-based, weren't they? Whereas Legend of Grimrock really isn't.
It's like a real time to it, but it was still on a grid. So it's like if you wait too long, the monsters will maul you. But like if you're good at doing some fancy maneuvering, you can maneuver behind their back and do some attacks, and avoid getting hit entirely. And that was kind of the charm of it too.
Actually, thinking about it, I remember they did a Game Boy Advance port of Eye of the Beholder, where they turned the combat into sort of like a turn-based strategy sort of game.
Huh.
That was really weird. Everything else was, all the puzzles in that were exactly the same, except the combat was just completely overhauled. It was weird.
Well, they kind of need to do it for the Game Boy for it to even work. But you know what? This makes me kind of miss Westwood back, when they existed. They did a lot of good games. Theme.
And then they sort of died horribly when they got devoured by EA.
Yeah.
Fun.
That just makes me sad. I wonder what would have. Yeah, I actually know what would have happened with Westwood if they had survived and not gotten eaten by EA. They would have been producing crappy, mediocre games that pandered to the majority, because that's where the money is. And if you don't do that, you're basically out of business.
That, or they would have focused on their core base to the point where they would have put themselves out of business.
They basically beat it over a dead horse so much that nobody cares about their franchise anymore, which is what EA tends to do, and then they just buy more franchises up and beat them over the head like a dead horse.
It's funny, I was reading the other day that EA are suing Zynga, you guys that do all the Facebook games.
Yeah.
I honestly had to stop and think for a minute, because I was like, I don't know who to root for here.
Why are they suing Zynga exactly?
You know how Zynga basically clone everything that's even remotely popular?
Yeah.
They've released a new game which is uncomfortably close to some sim social game which EA have put out.
Ah.
And as I said, I was sort of like, right, this is basically evil versus evil. Who do I root for?
Well, I hope they both waste a lot of money, and I don't know, like, yeah, that's a really good question.
No matter who wins, I'm just going to be sitting on the sidelines laughing.
Yeah, I really want to see where both companies suffer. Honestly, yeah, you know what? I have to side with. I hope EA wins this because
yeah,
my mother has
Zynga basically copy anything and everything that's remotely popular.
Well, this is more like internal family issues, but my mom is addicted to Zynga games to the point where it's getting out of hand.
Spending too much money on Zynga Funbucks?
No, as in, to the point where, like, we're talking about addict here. Like, she doesn't pay for anything, but from the moment she gets up, she's on those Zynga games, and you can't even get her to make any food. Like she expects people to like serve food for her, things like that. And I probably shouldn't even say these things because if
I'm maintaining a dignified silence and letting you dig your own hole.
Yeah. But no, like it is getting to a point where it could potentially tear the family apart, and like I guess I have to.
Creepy, huh?
Yeah. But that's family issues on my side. I probably shouldn't even mention them. We'll see you next time.
Later.